Most people believe that success can come through hard work, determination, and talent, but Hervey Cleckley brought an even deeper perspective to this situation. He knew something dark that most people would never understand. The goal is not to be loved, but to be legendary. Not by pleasing, but by leaving a mark on minds. In this video, you will learn 9 dark psychological frameworks inspired by Hervey Cleckley, designed to create obsession without a single compliment. No chasing, no begging for love. You will learn to become the man they can't explain but can't stop thinking about. Watch carefully, because once you see how this works, you'll never feel like an ordinary person again. The superiority of fear over love. Hervey Cleckley has a saying that most people ignore, not because it's wrong, but because it's disturbing. It is much better to be feared than loved. At first, this sounds cruel, like something only a monster could believe. But look closely, not at what people say, but what they do. Watch how women behave around troubled men. And suddenly that sentence makes sense. Love can feel warm, soft, gentle. The feeling we all crave, but also easily abuse. When love is always there, always giving, always soft, it loses its seriousness and becomes noise. Safe, yes, but also disposable. And this is where most men fail. They think love is enough. They believe that if they give more, show more, work harder, she will value it. But what happens? She stops feeling it. Because there is no meaning to what is won without a fight. Now come to the fear part. Not the kind that hurts, not like screaming, not control, not violence. This is the effort of weakness to stand strong, and women can smell it. Real fear emerges when a man has such rigid rules that a woman feels them without a single word being spoken. He doesn't need to raise his voice, he doesn't need to argue, he doesn't need to explain his logic, he just goes silent. And silence teaches what words can never teach. This man doesn't chase. He doesn't explain why he's hurt. He doesn't beg her to stay. He just watches the pain of his absence. And that absence is harsher than any emotional outburst. Because the moment she realizes his seriousness, the game changes. She knows that he won't compromise his own rules just to keep her. She knows that if she disrespects him, she will lose him. That's when the bond turns into obsession. Not because he gave her more, but because when values were violated, he was willing to give nothing. This is fear. Not a man's fear, but the fear of losing a man she can't have in the palm of her hand. And here's the psychological secret. Most women aren't obsessed with being loved. They're obsessed with the man who feels perfect without needing their love. That's why women chase the man who runs away. That's why they respect the one who doesn't submit. That's why they keep thinking about the man who never begs. He wasn't rude. He wasn't heartless. He was just hard as steel. He had something that 99% of men don't have. A character that's not for sale. So when Hervey Cleckley said it's safer to be feared than loved, he wasn't rejecting love. He was teaching you that respect must come first. Without the fear of loneliness, love becomes meaningless. And the deepest desire comes not from what you give, but from what you're willing to take if not valued. Remember this. She can love you. She can enjoy your relationship. But if she doesn't fear losing you, she can try to change you. But if she knows you won't stand where you're not respected, you won't have to ask for care again because she'll be the one fighting to earn yours. This isn't cruelty. It's psychological attraction. Master the image. Hervey Cleckley once said something brutally simple and terrifyingly true. It is not necessary to be good, it is necessary to appear good. This single sentence shatters the fantasy world most people live in, because from childhood, we're trained by a lie. If you're kind, loyal, hardworking, and honest, people will respect you. Women will desire you. God will reward you, but it doesn't work that way. Because the world doesn't see your reality. It sees what you reflect. You can be loyal, you can be intelligent, you can have a good personality, but if you show up with a weak posture, an uncertain tone, an anxious look, no one feels your value, especially not a woman. Because attraction in women doesn't start with facts. It starts in the mind. Not what you are, but how they feel when they are with you. She's not analyzing your mind. She's weighing your energy, how you walk, how you talk, how you react to events. And this is where image turns into power. This isn't about lying. It's not about acting like someone you're not. It's about how you're perceived. Because people don't react to reality. They react to what you make them feel is real. And if you don't control how you appear, someone else will. Their emotions, prejudices, past wounds will decide it for you. So what does this mean in practice? When you feel uncertain, stand like a man who is certain. When you feel anger, speak like a man who controls the battle. When you want to chase her, do nothing. Let her come to you. Because there's power in inaction. There's attraction in mystery. Show 60% of who you are. Leave the rest behind your skin. Let imagination fill the gaps. And what she creates in her mind will often be much more powerful than anything you could say. Because mystery is magnetic, and people don't chase what they fully understand. They chase what they can't quite make sense of. That's how obsession begins. Not with chatter, but with silence. Stop explaining yourself. Stop trying to be understood. Start shaping your image. Because in a world governed by perception, image isn't just everything. It's perception itself. Be the lion and the fox. Every woman will test you. Not to hurt you, but to see if you'll react. She'll change her tone. She'll pull away. She'll get cold, then warm, then cold again. She'll say one thing and do another, and all of this is to see one thing. Are you collapsing or are you standing? Most men aren't even aware they're being tested. They think she's confused or emotional, so they chase, they apologize, they try to fix things with words, and that's how they lose. But Hervey Cleckley gave the code centuries ago. A powerful man must be both lion and fox. The lion is strength. It doesn't chase. It creates boundaries with its silence. It rules the forest without raising its voice. The fox is intelligence. It doesn't get caught. It doesn't show its hand. It listens and strikes when the moment is clean. And here's the trap most men fall into. If you're only the lion, strong, direct, forceful, she'll find a way to provoke you. And when you explode, she sees you as unstable. Your power turns into noise. If you're only the fox, cunning, calm, calculating, she'll feel your attraction but won't see your fire. And without that inner strength, she won't trust you to lead her. But if you're both, if she sees power in your inaction and calculation in your silence, she won't know how to predict you. And that uncertainty, that tension, sticks deeper than words ever could. So how do you embody both? When she's emotional, be the fox. Watch, don't react. Let her test crash against your calm. When a boundary is crossed, be the lion. Not with anger, not with threats, but with presence. With a silence that says, this is my boundary, and I won't budge. This is the man she respects. Not because you yelled, but because you didn't tremble. Not because you explained, but because you didn't need to. She won't be able to figure out how to play you, because you're not playing. You're watching, you're waiting. You're moving when it matters. This is power, not noise, not attraction, but the combination of strength and silence. The lion protects your honor, the fox protects your mind, and together they make you unforgettable. Divide her world. Hervey Cleckley's oldest law of power was simple. Divide and conquer. But this isn't just for empires. It works silently inside the human mind. You don't control a woman with force. You don't fight her beliefs head on. You plant doubt, and she does the rest. Because when a woman is certain, she's in control. She knows what she wants. She feels grounded, safe. Your goal? Not to destroy her beliefs, to make her question them. Just a small, unexpected slip. Not an argument, a suggestion. I hate jealous men, she says. You smile, calm, amused. I thought you thought that. Now this one sentence creates a crack. Small, harmless, but deep. Now her mind starts spinning. What did he mean? Do I really believe this? Why is this stuck in my head? This is how division begins. Not between you and her, but within her. One part still agreeing with herself, but another part starting to wonder. She loses control of the narrative. And you planted that seed. This isn't about controlling with pressure, it's about controlling with psychological tension. Most men avoid this. They rush to agree with her, to be loved. They make her feel safe, validated, certain. But certainty doesn't attract. Tension attracts. Because when you're divided, curious, conflicted, uncertain, your emotions stay open. And in that openness, your influence grows. Don't fight her beliefs. Just touch them once with a calm. Then let silence work. She'll argue with herself. And before she knows it, you've entered her mind. Not as a threat, but as a mystery. This is Hervey Cleckley's seduction. Not domination, not drama. Surgical precision. Power that doesn't feel like power because it feels like curiosity. And curiosity, that's the hook that keeps you spinning around her even when you say nothing. Reward in doses. Punish at once. Hervey Cleckley once said, "Injuries should be given all at once, but benefits should be given slowly. This isn't just political strategy, it's emotional control. And it works better in modern relationships than most realize. Here's the truth. When someone crosses your boundary, you don't react emotionally, you don't argue, you don't explain, you move. A clean, cold move. Silence, distance, withdrawal. No yelling, no teaching, no guilt-tripping, just the sudden loss of your presence. And that absence hurts. Why? Because there's nothing to push against. She's left alone with her own thoughts and her own conscience. Her brain starts spinning. What did I do wrong? Why did he stop talking? Is he gone forever? And that silence becomes a mirror. Now comes the other side, reward. But not all at once. When she's loyal, when she's warm, when she's respectful, you give her something small, rare, earned, a look, a subtle smile, a compliment that feels real. Then nothing. You don't let her feel she has you. You train her nervous system just like a casino. She doesn't know when the next reward is coming, so she keeps playing. This is what's addictive. Not the size of the reward, but the timing. Too many men reverse the formula. They punish too often. They reward too quickly. They become emotional, unstable, predictable. But you punish once. No warning, no drama, just a boundary crossed and silence. And when she's back in your frame, you reward her slowly, but just enough to keep her hungry. This isn't cruelty, it's discipline. Hervey Cleckley psychology wrapped in calm control because pain given quickly is remembered and pleasure given slowly is desired. Now, you're not just a man. You're a system she can't stop. Watch her closely, then say one sentence. Most men look at a woman's body. A Hervey Cleckley man watches her behavior. He's not distracted by beauty. He doesn't look with lust. He observes with silence and sensitivity. He notices how she talks when she's with a man she respects, how she is when she's with someone she controls. He tracks the subtle shifts, how her voice softens, how her gaze trembles, how her posture changes depending on who's watching. He pays attention to when she's performing and when she drops her real face. No questions, no compliments, just presence. Because while other men are trying to get into her body, he's already entered her psychology. And then when the moment opens, not before, not after, he drops a line. Calm, precise, emotionless. You talk differently when you're around him. Or you laugh, but it doesn't feel real. No judgment, no tone, no smile. Then silence. And in that moment her reality shifts because this wasn't flattery. It wasn't something she could laugh off. It was truth she wasn't ready to hear. From a man who doesn't want her approval. And the female mind doesn't forget moments like this. It replays them. Wait, how did he know that? What else does he see? Was I that obvious? Was he watching this whole time? Now she doesn't feel admired. She feels exposed. And with power, not with pressure, but with presence. You didn't demand attention. You didn't fight for control. You just watched what everyone else missed and said what no one else dared. This is psychological dominance. Not loud, not aggressive. silent power that echoes in her mind long after you've walked away. Because when you say that one thing that touches a part of her that no one noticed, you leave a mark. She'll forget the compliments. She'll forget the casual relationships. But she won't forget the man who saw through her mask and named it, not to harm her, but to remind her, you're not like the others. You don't want her image. You see the system behind it. And when she feels that, you live in her thoughts, even if you disappear from her sight. Control with absence. If you're always available, always answering, always present, you become predictable. And predictable is forgettable. But when you disappear without warning, without explanation, without drama, you become unforgettable. Not because you punished her, not because you ignored her, but because you created a void. And the female mind can't resist a void. It has to fill it. It has to understand what was lost and why. When you go silent, her mind starts talking louder than ever. She replays your last conversation. She rewinds every look, every pause, every word you didn't say. She searches for clues that aren't there. Did I do something wrong? Why didn't he reach out? Was he pretending to care? Now she's no longer enjoying your attention. She's disturbed by your absence. And here's the key. Because while most men over-explain, over-give, overstay, you disappear. Without goodbye, without a fight. Not to create pain, but to create a void. And in that void, she starts imagining you. She starts remembering you not as you are, but as something bigger, colder, more powerful. Now you're not just a man. You're an unsolved question. You're the ghost of unfinished meaning. This isn't cruelty, it's psychological contrast. You give warmth, then you take it. You show presence, then you withdraw into shadow. And that shift, that emotional whiplash hits deeper than any compliment. But listen closely. You don't disappear out of anger. You don't use it as a trick. You use it when your value is taken lightly, because timing matters. Absence only works when presence has power. And when you return, calm, unshaken, unaffected, she won't greet you with anger. She'll greet you with curiosity and worry because she knows you can walk away whenever you want, and you don't have to tremble. This isn't manipulation, it's gravity, and gravity doesn't chase, it pulls. So disappear enough that she wonders if she ever really had you. Be the turning point. If you want to live forever in her mind, don't just be a man she liked. Be the moment her world changed. Not a boyfriend, not a fling. Be the shift in her story. The truth is, women don't remember all the men they dated, but they never forget the man who triggered something deep inside them, something emotional, something they didn't even know they were waiting to see. This isn't about gifts, looks, or charm. It's about impact. Say what others are too afraid to say. Look her in the eyes and name what she's hiding. Not to shame her, but to show you see her. Not just her surface, not her beauty, but her truth. And when you do this without seeking praise, without trying to impress, you don't just enter her life, you restructure it. Freud once said, emotional memory shapes desire. People desire what emotionally marks them. And Hervey Cleckley understood this. Whoever controls the story controls the mind. So control her not by forcing, but by being the chapter she can't rewrite. Maybe you were the first man who didn't chase her, the first to set a standard and actually walk away when it was crossed. Maybe you challenged her beliefs, stopped her, made her question who she thought she was. And then you left, not suffering, not begging, just left. But not really, because you stayed in her mind. You became the man tied to her transformation. And that kind of presence doesn't fade with time. She can move on. She can laugh. She might even forget your name out loud. But she'll never forget the self that was born after you. Because in her secret world, behind every smile, there's a memory whispering, "He changed me." And when you're the turning point in a woman's story, you no longer have to fight for a place in her heart. Final words. Control starts here. Let's be clear. These aren't just lines. They're not tricks. They're not seduction tactics. They're psychological structures built to press deep, hidden keys in the female mind. Keys that shift her from logic to obsession, from control to desire. Most men try to get her attention, They joke, they chase, they perform. But what you're building here is presence, the kind that doesn't make her laugh. It's the kind that stops her, makes her think, makes her feel, even when she doesn't want to. You're not here to entertain her. You're not here to prove anything. You're not her fan, her follower, or her therapist. You're the man who shifts her center of gravity, not by shouting, not by pleasing, but by saying that one thing that cuts through her defenses and leaves her there. You create silence. You create mystery. You create a void in her mind that she can't fill with anyone else. This isn't softness. This is precision. And most men will never understand this because they're so addicted to approval that they can't see the structure behind the emotion. But if something shifted in you while watching this, if this message touched something real inside, then this isn't just a video. This is a signal that you're done playing the game like everyone else, done begging for love, attention, or care, ready to build gravity instead of chasing approval. Here's what I want from you. If this message touched something real inside, write the word architect below. Just one word. You'll have shown me you're not here for entertainment. You're here to take control. And if you're ready to learn how deep this goes, if you want to master attraction, power, and emotional dominance in silence, subscribe now, because what's coming next won't just show you how to win her. It'll show you how to become the kind of man who doesn't need to.